feel like that was like the walk of something. I'm not quite sure what that was. I don't think so. Is it okay if it's there, JP? All right, cool. So I have to say, I am truly humbled to be here today. I see so many faces that I recognize, and I thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to be here to just talk to me, basically. And thank you, Barbara, for inviting me here today. I have to say that when I first got the email from Barbara that she wanted me to speak here today, I got really excited. There you are. I was like, where is she? I can't see her. I got really excited. And immediately, I texted my girlfriend, Carrie. And I was like, yeah, she remembers, right? And I was like, oh my God, Carrie, they want me to speak at Women's Wednesday. This is what you and I were talking about the other day, the call to action button. And all of a sudden, that tiny little voice inside my head started messing with me. She gave me a couple dates to choose from in January and some in February. And I was like, maybe I need to push it till March, maybe April. Maybe I'm not gonna be ready for it just now, right? Mm-hmm. And so I let that email sit there for a couple days. A couple days later, I was in my office talking to my boss, Erwin. And I was talking to him about some personal things that I'm going through. And he literally said, Ellie, if you don't speak up, nothing will ever change. And that hit me. And for those of you that don't know, for the past 15 years, I've been working with Erwin Jackson. So if you don't know him, Google him. Because this is a man who, when he speaks, he makes change happen, right? So in my head, I was thinking that. But then I still let your email just sit there. The next day, I'm driving down the road, and I'm on my way to my daughter's basketball game. And I'm thinking, as we all do, of all the things that I have to do, but I'm thinking of the email that you sent me. I'm thinking of what Erwin told me. I'm thinking of what Carrie said. And then all of a sudden, a tiny little voice got here, and it was my girlfriend, Amber. And she goes, Ellie, you got this. Just channel your Brene Brown storytelling, right? And it was like, oh my God, yes, Brene Brown, how could I forget? I just learned about her like less than a year ago, right? So I'm in the car, I get to the stoplight, and I put it YouTube. I did stop at the stop sign, so at the light, I did do that. And I put on Brene Brown, and shame and vulnerability popped up. I was like, bring it. I got this, right? And I listened to her all the way to my daughter's basketball game. And by the time I got to the basketball game, I was pumped. I was ready to throw down, getting ready to like get back in the arena. And I sat on the bleachers, and I emailed Barbara. And I said, how about February 12th? Would that work for you? I watched my daughter's basketball game. I enjoyed it. And then a few hours later, she replies back. And she goes, great, I got your book. I need your name, your picture. I need your bio. And I need you to tell me what you're going to talk about. And all of a sudden, that tiny little voice inside my head started messing with me again. I was like, what am I going to talk about? I was literally thinking, what could I stand up here and tell you guys that you can't Google, right? I'm like, Google is the answer for everything in our lives, whether it's professionally, personally, sexually, medically, you name it, Google's got it, right? And so I was like, not only that, but then it packages it up for you in a 30, 60, 90 day something, or 3-step, 5 steps, because God forbid, we all do more than 5 steps to make something happen, right? And so then I was like, what does Ellie have that Google doesn't? And it hit me. Google can't connect with you the way that I can. Because that's what I'm here trying to do. Sweaty as hell, nervous as hell, trying to connect with you, right? Not from up here, as if I was any better than you guys. Damn sure not from down here, as if any of you were better than me. But right here, eye to eye, so that we can all connect and hopefully look up together, right? So I can stand up here and talk to you guys about marketing. I can stand up here and talk to you guys about entrepreneurship, leadership, how to run a $40 million business, which is, by the way, what I do for a living. But the thing is, I don't want to talk to you guys about that. I could give you some really good information, right? Because I have plenty of experience, 20 plus years of it. And I can either give you that and you'll be like, oh yeah, that was insightful, or I can bore you to tears. But I didn't want to talk to you guys about that. I wanted to talk to you guys about something that was a little bit more personal, something that was a little bit closer to my heart. I wanted to talk to you guys, about women, about how to know your worth and how to find your worth, right? And how to know your value. So I want to start with something that I think a lot of us can relate to. And I'm like trying to figure out how to move here and where to go. This chair is like, I don't know. I'll use it eventually, right? So some of us can relate to, basically, right? And it's partnerships and romantic relationships. And so 15 years ago, I opened up my journal and I started writing a list. And it was the list of the qualities, characteristics, values, and morals that I wanted, not needed, wanted out of somebody in my life. And I divided up the list in 2 different columns. One was, this is the absolute must-have. This person has to have this, otherwise I'm not even going to consider it. And the second column of, this would be really nice as an add-on. Kind of like if I'm buying a 4-bedroom house, like a 4-2, and it had a pool, like the pool is the add-on, right? Like that would be really nice. But I needed the 4-2. And I was so proud of my list because I truly knew who I was. And I knew what I wanted in my life and what I needed based on my strengths and weaknesses, right? So that I could do better and succeed. And I closed my journal, and a few months go by. And I did something that cost me dearly, physically, emotionally, and financially. When I met someone, I forgot to check back on my list. I forgot to do what we all do, right? Check them off and make sure. A few months ago, I was having dinner with a couple friend of mine, and they're here today, so you'll remember the story. And they invited me to dinner, and they're like, you and somebody else. I was like, it's going to be me, myself, and I, so I hope that that's okay. And I was genuinely interested in getting to know them a little bit better, and also borderline doing research, because that's what I do, right? I always pop up my phone. I'm writing notes down. Y'all know me. I do that. And I asked them, how did you guys meet? How did you know that you were right for each other? Like, how did that happen? And the guy took the lead and said, well, I really kind of knew what I wanted. He said, I went to a university that had a 4-to-1 male to female ratio. Right? So he said, I was like that. I was like, huh? And because we go to Florida State and it's totally opposite, right? And he said, so within 2 weeks of any woman walking in those doors, they had a boyfriend. And he said, so I noticed something. I noticed that people stayed in really, really bad relationships for fear of not finding someone soon after. And so he said he started making a mental spreadsheet of the things that he wanted out of a relationship. I see them laughing. Because you know I took notes. Of the things that he didn't want out of a relationship and the things that he wanted out of somebody in his life. So with a 4-to-1 male to female ratio, he was probably celibate for 4 years. And then, but then he transferred universities to another one, right? Where he could pursue a higher degree. And then he met this person. And he immediately started checking her off the list. Fast forward 20 years, and they're still together, right there on that corner. Now, I'm not gonna lie, what really gets me about that is that what man writes a freaking checklist? Exactly. That's something we do. That's something we do for everything in our lives, right? Like the beginning of the year, I have a checklist for my personal life, my professional life, my health life, you name it. We're checking things off, and I forgot to check one of the most important checklists of my life. The person that was gonna be my partner. The person that was gonna be the father of my children. So here's the thing about spreadsheets. In order for you to create a spreadsheet whether it's in your job or personally, of what you want out of somebody else for you, you need to know who you are. And I find that many women have no idea who they are. I was with my girlfriend Amber about a year ago. And I'm sitting down with her and I'm like, I just don't get it. Like, you guys know how frustrated I get sometimes. I was like, how is it possible that women don't know what they like, what they want? And she's like, Ellie, they just don't know how they like their eggs. And I was like, what? And I think we were eating. And she goes like this too. How you like your eggs? And I said, scrambled, well done, with absolutely nothing running on my plate. She goes, you know how you like your eggs, but many women don't know how they like their eggs. And may I add, many women change the way they like their eggs based on who they're with, who's watching, and what they're doing. So oftentimes when I ask women doing my research, what was that? That's what I said when she asked me about the eggs. I'm like, what? So oftentimes as I'm doing research and talking around people, because you guys know I do that all the time, I find that women, again, don't know what they want. And I sort of am able to put them into 3 different categories. I get the first category, which is typically single younger women. And when I ask them, what do you like? What do you enjoy? What do you want? I don't know. I'm just kind of going with the flow, you know. I'm just not sure what I like. I like hanging out, and you know, I'm just at this job right now, but I'm sure something better will come on. I'm like, all right. So then, when I talk to women that are in a relationship, I tend to get the whole, watch it. Well, we like going to the game, and we like going to the park, taking our dog out there. And right now, I'm waiting for him to finish grad school or get that promotion or get that transfer so that I can figure out what I need to do or where I want to go with my career. And then I get the third category, which is women with children, such as myself. And I ask them, hey, what do you want? What do you need out of your life? Like, where are you going? Girl, I have no idea. I am going through cheer practice, I'm going to basketball practice, I'm going to the PTAs, I am running around like crazy, I'm barely able to make it to work, I have no idea who the hell I am, right? And then you got the outliers. You got the women that really know what they want, the ones that will tell you and you're like, whew, I need to step up my game, you know, I'm not there yet. And then you got the other side, which is the women who use Google to tell me what they're supposed to be liking and doing in their life. And Google popped out this answer for them and said, you should like traveling and experiencing new things. And then when they tell me that, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. You know, where do you go? Where do you like going? Oh, girl, I ain't got no money. I don't know. I just figured that's something I would like. I'm like, all right. Here's what happens when you begin to know who you are. You stop playing a role. You stop pretending to be somebody else's idea of what you should be, right? And you start becoming who you are. And another thing happens too, it's a little bit more magical, is that you start glowing. And people are gonna notice. People are gonna see that you're starting to change because you're starting to become more real, more genuine, more authentic. You're not like everyone else. You're you. And personally, one of the most important things that happen when you know who you are is you stop comparing yourself to other women. All right? Because a woman who knows her worth does not compare herself to other women. A few months ago, my youngest daughter and I went to the Oasis event that they had for women to run for office. And I know, I say too many cuss words, y'all know that. And I'm not gonna do it today. But a friend of mine who actually is in this room today spoke at that event. And she said something that all of us know, but it was still so powerful for her to say it up there. And it took guts for her to say it, right? She said, the problem is that women are not very nice to each other, and they don't support each other. And as I stand here in a room full of women and some men, I know that women who know their worth are not like that. I know women who know their worth are not mean to other women, but rather they lead, they help, they empower, they protect other women, right? And so I'm going to encourage you that the next time you're comparing yourself to another woman, or as my 24-year-old daughter, Nikki, would say, low-key judging her, right? When she's giving me the tea, you know? So approach that woman and tell her that you admire her, because you're just jealous of her, right? You're jealous because whatever it is that she's got, you don't have. And ask her to help you. Ask her to find a way to get you to where you want to be. And I can guarantee you that that woman will turn around and not only be like, absolutely, I would love to help you, but she will welcome you into her circle and into her bubble. Can you believe that I'm actually going through what's up? I use the word bubble and circle because I've actually used them for many, many years, especially the word bubble. And because people used to ask me for years, and they still do, I think some of them have given up and be like, oh, Ellie, have you seen that movie? Or have you seen that TV show? Or that celebrity? And I would be like, I'm sorry, I live in a bubble. I have no idea what you're talking about. And they're like, but it's a classic. How could you not? I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I live in a bubble. Like, I just don't know, right? I chose not to spend my time doing that, right? But here's something that I started doing differently. Instead of being alone in that bubble, in my circle, I started adding some people into my circle. But I was very selective of the people that got close to me, right? I wanted people that would force me to do better, that would challenge me, that would help me grow. And here's why. In life, people are going to do three things, one of three things to you. They're either going to drain you, they're going to drown you, or they're going to challenge you. So you better believe I was very freaking selective of who was in my circle. It didn't mean that I wasn't going to talk to those other people out there, right? It didn't mean that. I obviously had to work with some of them, have to do whatever. But it just means that you weren't going to get close enough to me to hurt me. If you were in that circle, it's because you had some kind of value to my life, and vice versa. If I'm in somebody else's circle, I want to be adding value to you. Otherwise, get me out. Like, I don't need to be there. Put somebody else in that circle, right? And the circle opens and closes. Like, some people come and go. The hard part about the circle for us women is setting boundaries. Because for us, we've been told from the get-go, like, you have to welcome everyone, right? You have to be nice to everybody. But if you're only going to put the people that challenge you in that circle, then you have to set up those boundaries. I've had to do that a couple times in my life. And last year, I had to do it with a good girlfriend of mine. She was going through some personal stuff. And as a result, she was making some really poor choices. Things that I didn't even want to hear. I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't even want to be around it. So I had dinner with her one afternoon. And I looked at her and I said, I love you, but I'm not getting in the water for you. I'm not going back in the pool. And she looked at me the same way that I looked at Amber when she asked me about the eggs, right? She was like, what are you talking about? There's no water, right? I said, you're drowning right now. And what do people do when they're drowning? They're out there, right? They're like, oh my God, help me. They're trying to get somebody's attention from all the way up there, whether they're in the middle of the ocean, in the pool, wherever, right? They're screaming, they're yelling, they're an emotional wreck. And I said, that's where you are right now. And I said, I'm not getting back in the water. Because ultimately, when somebody's out there drowning, somebody always rushes out to save them, right? And they swim all the way up there. And what happens when that other person gets there? They drown together because the person that was in there is so messed up that starts fighting the person that's trying to save them. I said, girl, I almost drowned once. And I barely was able to make it back to shore, alone and alive. I said, I was beat up. I said, I was full of bruises. I was sore as hell from the beating I had just gotten out there. And I said, and I was physically, emotionally, and mentally drained because I almost lost my life to somebody I cared about, to somebody I loved, to somebody I was trying to help. So I said, I'm not getting back in the water. I said, I'm going to throw you a buoy. That's what I'm going to do. And I even told her, I said, if you want a unicorn one, I'll get you a unicorn buoy, right? Like, whatever it is that you want, I'll get it for you, right? And I said, and when you're ready to grab onto that and come back to shore, you let me know. And I will pull you as hard as I can. And believe me, I am pretty damn strong, you know? I was like, I'll pull you. I'll get my abs in there. I'll get ankle deep. I might get like knee deep. And if you really need me, I don't want to, but if you really need me, I might get waist deep. But I'm not getting back in the water. Because in order for me to take care of myself or somebody else, I have to take care of me. And women who know their worth put themselves first, right? I struggle with that a little bit because all of us are familiar with the flight attendant little spiel in the airplane, right? In case of an emergency, you know, put your face mask on first and then put it on somebody else. And when I'm traveling by myself, I'm literally sitting there, I'm like surveying the crowd. I'm like, all right, I'm kind of half-assed listening to what she's saying. I know that there's some flotation device in between my legs. Something's gonna pop out of here. And I'm looking at the exits. Okay, I got this. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to jump above this one. I'm gonna have to help that one. Like, I am literally thinking all these things, right? And then when you're in the back of the plane, you're screwed. Like, but I'm thinking through this. But when I'm traveling with my kids, that's something different. Because then I think, would I really put on my mask on first before I put it on them? And if I put on the mask on them first, they risk losing me. They risk losing the only person in their life that has never abandoned them. The only person that has guided them, that has loved them, that has been there for them. They risk losing their tree of life, as they like to call me. But if I put on my mask on first, and I take a deep breath, and then I put it on them, then we both have a chance, right? So women that know their worth, put themselves first. In order to do that, you need to create new habits. And think about that for a second. Because the idea that marketing tells us about taking care of yourself is about going to get petties and mimosas on Sundays. That ain't it. You could do that if you have the money, but taking care of yourself does not mean spending money like that. Taking care of yourself means creating new habits. Habits that would allow you to grow, to make sure that you're not in that same situation all over again, back in that water, whether being drowned or helping somebody else, right? Habits that will make sure that you get out of whatever cycle that you're in. And you know whatever cycle that you're in, you know that. And the thing is that creating those new habits, sadly enough, only about 10% of people are going to be able to do it because it's hard. It requires willpower. It requires drive. It requires the ability to leave everything that you knew behind. Oh, I just saw my name there. Oh, that's cute. Sorry. Oh, I was like, I know that name. So it requires you to leave behind everything that you know, right? And create new ones. And that's very hard for people to do. But here's another thing that happens when you start creating new habits. You develop new coping skills, better coping skills. None of us are immune to pain. Every single one of us is going to go through something in our lives whether it's going to be a divorce, the death of a parent, the death of a child, illness, losing your job, you name it, right? We're all going to go through something. And some of us are going to go through more than one thing at the same time, and others it's just going to be little by little, right? But when you have the right coping skills to help you deal with that, you're going to know how to get out of that dark circle in there, so that dark hole in the middle. It doesn't mean that you're not going to hurt. It doesn't mean that you're not going to feel it, that you're going to be like, whatever, And it doesn't mean that you're not going to be in bed crying sometimes. But it means that whatever it is that's happening, you know, and you have the ability to overcome it. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're down there, but you can see it. And every single day, you'll get back up, and you get out of bed, and you do it all over again. And with those new coping skills, it won't allow you to go back to the things that you do to drown your sorrows and your pain, right? What are those things? Alcohol, pills, food, drugs, and even other men. And what I'm about to say, I'm not trying to make it sound judgmental, but you will never find your worth in someone else's bed. And let that sink in for just a second there. But rather, a woman who knows her worth never, and I mean never, feels lonely when alone in the dark. Did you get that? She will grow in the dark. She will become fearless in the dark. And she will be able to find her peace and her center. And those are the things that are going to help her deal with whatever it is going on out there in the world, all those things that she can't control, right? I will say that I feel bad because the lady was talking about the church earlier today, but I don't go to church. I don't. Sorry, girl. I'm not religious. I don't go to church. I don't do any of those things, right? But a couple years ago, I needed to find something. I needed to find something other than me. I needed to find a way to connect with something, so that like I said, so whatever was out there, I needed to find that center, right? That peace. You know, I had a lot of other stuff going on, but that was still missing. And I did it through breathing. And I was like, okay, I'll try this. And through meditation. And the first time that I went out back to my back porch to try to do it, I didn't last 2 minutes. Y'all know me. I was like, ooh, what am I supposed to be doing out there? I'm like, I'm not feeling this, and I didn't like this and that. I'm like, this is just not working. And I went back in. And I went back to what I knew, right? My habits. I went back to cooking, to cleaning, to working, to taking care of my kids, right? But the next day, I went back out to my porch. Because I knew, like as I mentioned, that 10% was going to make it, because going back in there again, through that drive, whatever it is, I was going to find it. Because I needed to find that peace, right? And so I kept going back over and over and over. And finally, I was able to find that center. And I was able to find that connection. And it was with nature, right? It was with the world around me, with the universe. And it was sitting on my back porch, meditating, sometimes listening to music, sometimes not. And it was connecting with the moon and the stars, and sometimes the breeze that I would hear moving the trees in the back, and with the sunset. I mean, if you follow me on any of my social media accounts, you know how much I love a sunset. And that's why, because I'm able to find peace. At that moment, nobody can break me, right? And so I encourage you to find that, to find whatever that center is for you, grow it. Because that would allow you to make sure that you don't react to whatever other people are trying to do to you. Whatever's going on that you can't control, I'm right here. Didn't even bother me, because I have peace. And last but not least, and I'm going to say one cuss word, that's all. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to take it out. I'm not doing it. She asked me to take it out. I said, no. Women who know their worth own their shit. Right? I just had to. And this is why. It is so easy to blame other people for what's happening to you. It is so easy to say, well, I just had a rough childhood. My dad was an alcoholic. This happened to me, whatever. And for you not to take responsibility of what you've done along the way. It is very easy to make excuses as to why you're not where you think you should be. And you're blaming other people for it, right? So own your shit. I tell my kids and my coworkers this little phrase. I'm like, own it, fix it, and move on. That's all you got to do. And it started at work, actually, about 3 or 4 years ago. I had folded all of the t-shirts, promo items, student housing, all nice and neat in this little cubby thing. And the next day I come back, and it's a mess. And I was like, guys, what the hell happened here? And nobody wanted to own it. Not one person. And I was like, there's only 4 of us. And I wasn't here. So who did it? Oh, Ellie, I don't know. Maybe it was, I saw a tenant come in and watching TV. We just don't know. I was like, guys, let me tell you something. The reason I want to know who did this is because maybe I need to help you, because maybe you don't know how to fold them the way I folded them, right? And then you were like, oh, I left it a mess. Or maybe your parents didn't teach you how to pick up after yourself, right? So I was like, I'm not trying to rub your nose all up in it. All I'm trying to do is figure out who did it so that we can either, if it's a learning opportunity, then let's do it. And it's not, let's fix it, right? And so you better believe that from that day forward, none of my team, and you've heard my team before, no one in my team has ever not owned it. They're like, own it, fix it, and move on. And so I tell that to people, right? Own your shit. Own what you've done to other people. It takes guts to stand up there and say to somebody, I failed. Or to say to somebody, I did you wrong. I'm really sorry. How many of us wish somebody else would say that, right? But they're not going to do it because they're not going to own their shit. They're too into their mess. But I'm encouraging all of you guys to own your shit, to take responsibility for what you've done, what you keep doing. And this is not like, oh, I'm going to keep doing it again. This is like, I'm going to own it, I'm going to fix it, and I'm going to move on, and I'm going to learn from this, and I'm never going to do it again, right? Before I get out of here, I want to share 2 more things with you. One, the reason I chose this date was because it was close to Valentine's Day. And I don't really celebrate it, never really have. It is what it is, right? But then a few years ago, somebody told me about Galentine's Day. And I was like, I had no idea what it was. And my editor, Lisa, said to me a few weeks ago, she's like, oh yeah, that's a day that you pick to tell the women in your life and the girls in your circle that you care about them and you exchange gifts. And so today, I brought a gift for all of you guys as a Galentine's Day gift for me. And it's simple, but it's from my heart. And it's a bookmark. And it's a tiny little bookmark, and I'll have you guys pass around. Sandra approved. She did tell me to take something out, but I didn't. And I'm not gonna for now.
I'm the preacher in a
But she knows my heart is good, though. You know I got a good heart. So in the front of the bookmark, it's just the name of my book that Lisa over there is trying to help me put together and publish. And in the back of it is all the 12 steps that we just went through to know your worth, to know your value. And the number, the way they're lined up here, it doesn't mean that you have to go through them that way. that's just the way I did it for this speech. But whether it's in your book, a girlfriend of mine put it in her bathroom mirror to remind her every day to do these things, right? But here's the deal. If you're trying to do this in a 30, 60, 90-day anything, or 12-week whatever, just give it to somebody else. Just go ahead and give it to somebody else, because that's not what this is about. This is something that you're going to do for the rest of your life, because you need to know your worth today, tomorrow, and 20 years from now, right? So the second thing, and I'll get out of here, is something that I heard at a conference that I went to last year. When I was a little girl, I used to be called Elefante. Yeah, exactly. No, you know? And it was play on word with my name, Ellie Elefante, right? And did y'all see Emma there or what? You know, Emma's my youngest. And so I was like, don't call me an elephant. I'm not an elephant. But as I became older, I began to fall in love with the elephant. And I wear them, and they're in my house, because the elephant symbolizes strength and power and wisdom. And they take care of the people around them. So I'm going to read something to you that I heard in a conference last year about how female elephants behave with one another. It says, in the wild, when a mama elephant is given birth, all the other female elephants in the herd back around her in formation. They close ranks so the delivering mama cannot even be seen in the middle. They stomp and kick up dirt and soil to throw attackers off the scent and basically act like a pack of fierce bodyguards. They surround the mama and incoming baby in protection, sending a clear signal to predators that if they want to attack their friend while she's vulnerable, they'll have to get through 40 tons of female aggression first. That's some big stuff, right? When the baby elephant is delivered, the sister elephants do two things. They kick sand or dirt over the newborn to protect its fragile skin from the sun. And they all start trumpeting, a female celebration of new life, of sisterhood, of something beautiful being born in a harsh, wild world, despite enemies and attackers and predators and odds. We have you. You are never alone. And here's my call to action button to you guys that I spoke about when Carrie and I were texting. Find your tribe. Find the women and the men, the few men in your life. I do have men in my circle. You know that. Find the ones that are going to push you to do better, that are going to get up in your face and tell you when you've done wrong. Find the people in your life that are going to stop making excuses for you, stop lying for you, and look around, because some of those people might be in this room. Thank you.